I'm Simone, and I'm sitting here with the one and only Michael Schwandt, choreographer and stage director. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming here and talking with us, spending some time with the DancePlug crew.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's get into what's going on with you lately.
Okay.
Your latest projects.
My latest projects. I'm working on Miss USA for the fifth year now, and really excited. It's produced by Dick Clark Productions now, the same executive producer that does So You Think You Can Dance.
Okay.
So we're making, trying to evolve the show a lot this year, making changes, trying to head more in like a Victoria's Secret fashion show vibe with the show. And,
nice.
We have guest artist performances. We've been doing that for a few years. And a lot of people don't know that. And this year I'm really excited because we've got Flo Rida performing. We've got Cobra Starship, who I'm a huge fan of, performing, and we've got Akon debuting a single that's not even out yet. So he's debuting it on our show. So I'm really excited to get to work with those three artists and just to continue my work on the show.
Fantastic. Now tell me a little bit about what goes into making this show and maybe some challenges that you may encounter or maybe just some different dynamics.
Well, it's a hard show to do just because we're not working with professional dancers. First and foremost, we work with the contestants, and then any auxiliary performances that happen, we stage those as well. But our first priority is to stage the contestants for a show. And that's really difficult because you have varying degrees of ability and varying degrees of dance experience. Some of these girls have grown up dancing, some of them still dance on, NBA teams and things like that.
Certainly.
Some of them have never danced at all. So ascertaining their ability in a very short amount of time and then staging them appropriately is really hard. I don't think people realize how difficult that is. You have about an hour to look at someone and figure out what they can and can't do. And the way we do this show, the format that I came up with whenever I started was not to give the same choreography to everyone. I just thought that was a horrible idea. So we choreograph everything 3 times over for 3 different levels. And so that way each girl, whatever level she's in, is comfortable with what she's doing.
That's fantastic.
So that's our first priority. And then second is any guest artist performances that we might have. So in this case, we have 3 guest artists. And those performances I will stage direct. If there's dancers involved, I'll choreograph them as well. So in this particular case, Flo Rida will have extras, but not dancers. Cobra Starship will have dancers, and Akon will just be staged. So, and stage directing, entails everything from lighting to LED screens and everything. I work with the set designers on the show just to make sure everything is laid out properly. And it's a collaborative effort. And there's no extra time allotted in our schedule when those things happen.
Right.
We have to make the time. So we just have to squeeze it in wherever we can. And the tricky part about that show is all those elements, they don't ever come together until
the last minute.
Until the last minute, the day before. So we have to be on our game as far as planning.
And how much time do you have to spend actually with the other producers and directors outside of all of the creative work? Seeing as it does come together so last minute, because you're doing the lighting, you're doing the staging, and
a lot of time.
A lot of paper too, I'm assuming, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we start planning 3 months in advance, 3 to 4 months in advance, and lots of production meetings, lots of set meetings, lighting meetings, those types of things. And then once we actually get there on site, I mean, my day is spent most of the time in meetings. I'd say 50% of my time is in meetings and bouncing in and out of rehearsal. And that's where having a reliable team of assistants and associates comes into play.
And how many of those do you have?
On any one show like this, I'll have 2, but I have a team of about 6 assistants that I've worked with over the years that I love and adore, and that I have an almost intuitive relationship with at this point. They know exactly what I want them to do before I say it almost. And I oftentimes don't like to call them assistants because I almost feel like it pushes them down a notch sometimes for the work that they do, because anyone in this industry knows that I think you're only as strong as your team of assistants, or as I like to call them, associate choreographers.
Absolutely. So if someone was interested in being an assistant or associate, maybe they are wanting to take their experience to the next level or expand outside of just choreography.
Sure.
What would be some additional skills that may be helpful for them to try and get entrenched in?
I think the biggest surprise when people try and make that transition is just how much it has nothing to do with dance. Is how much it has to do with planning and how much of a paper trail there is and how many meetings there are. And I actually had an experience like that with a good friend. Her name is Ruthie Anshaustagi, and she's a kind of a legend in the dance world. You know, she danced for Madonna and the Girly Show, and she's danced for Janet Jackson, and right now she's on the Michael Jackson Cirque show. But she hadn't assisted on a level like that before, and I took her to a job in Africa 2 years ago. And on the way back, she just held my hand and she said, "Thank you." She said, "I learned so much. You know, I've been dancing for almost 20 years, but I learned so much on this job because it had nothing to do with dance." And I didn't realize how much went into the other side of it. And it stuck with me because we don't learn that as dancers. You don't learn that in class. It's not taught to you in the studio when you're taking class. Totally. And I think the best way to get that experience is to offer yourself up to a choreographer. I do have people oftentimes that say, "You know what, if you just need help on something, no matter how big or small, I just want the experience." And that's exactly what you have to do. Absolutely. And you learn that way, and you prove yourself to a choreographer, to multiple choreographers. And I promise you, they will recognize that and remember it. And the next time the jobs come around, provided you do a great job.
Absolutely.
But it's a great way to learn. And it is a totally different world, you know?
Because you majored in radio, TV, and film. Yes. Which more than likely led you to the stage directing aspect of it. But
absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your experience. Did you dance as well?
I did.
What was your journey?
I started late. It seems to happen more often with guys, I think, than with girls.
You guys can do it like that. Unfair. No.
I didn't take my first dance class till I was 18.
Wow.
And I just always had a very rough ability. And someone who went to my high school, who's now on Broadway, he's a phenomenal dancer. His mother owned a dance studio, and she saw my roughness, and she offered for me to just take classes at her studio. So I did that until I left for college. I just threw myself into every level with ballet, jazz, and hip hop, and didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Did you say ballet?
Yes.
Let's say that again. Ballet.
Oh my god. So important.
So important.
Oh my gosh. So I got to college, and I danced on the side. I got an okay from the dance department to allow me to take my electives with the dance majors.
Fantastic.
Which included ballet and contemporary. And I danced in a group in college. And that group, it was a student organization. That group, I was in it for 3 years, was like my internship in a way. That was my internship for being a dancer. Absolutely. For like the dance world.
Got you.
And what I was learning in school was my preparation for what I'm doing now. And that was an invaluable experience for me, just learning how to use software and learning how to be self-sufficient in terms of editing, because I edit my own reels. I wouldn't have traded that. You know, oftentimes I'm like, oh, I wish I'd gone to LA when I was 18.
We all say that.
Right. I think everyone does. But at the same time, I wasn't ready. I wasn't a dancer. Exactly. I was learning, and I needed that time to develop other things.
Wow. Yeah. What a journey.
Such
and
a
now
journey.
You're here.
And now I'm here.
And you even sponsor, you do the workshops. Tell me a little bit about that.
Teaching is a huge passion of mine. And I think part of it is because I didn't have a mentor growing up. I didn't have that in my life. I didn't have anyone that ever told me I could.
Sure.
Everyone told me I couldn't. Everyone told me I was too old. I was a boy in Texas. So you think you can dance, and dance television reality shows were not around then. Exactly. So it just wasn't, it wasn't smiled upon. It wasn't looked highly upon. So I think that's why teaching is so important to me, because I learned so much from the teachers I took from. I've been fortunate in the success that I've had. And one of the things that I'm a big believer in is giving back. And it as cliche as it can sound, enough people don't do it, in my opinion. And I'm really big on giving back and being appreciative of what I've achieved. And it's like I tell kids in a master class or in a workshop or a convention class right before we start, they get excited because I've worked with Lady Gaga, or they get excited because of these names. And the first thing I say is that means absolutely nothing. That means nothing. What matters is what we do in this class right now, and and the experience that you have. That's what matters. Just because I've worked with somebody doesn't make me a good teacher, and doesn't mean that you're going to have a good time. So I'm a big believer in educating and helping people, because I never had that help. So I've been fortunate to teach all over the US, as so many dancers and choreographers have, but abroad as well. And one place in particular is Australia. I teach in lots of other countries, but Australia, for some reason, is like my home away from home. And I started teaching there about seven years ago, and it was because of studios that took my class at the Edge here in LA when I was teaching at the Edge, and enough of them wanted me to come down and teach. And it became this annual thing. I just did my I think it's my 8th year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I've had studios that have had me all 7 years, and every time it's just because of the experience that I have with their kids and that they have with me. Fantastic. And there's no pretense in the classroom. It's all about learning and growing and evolving. And I think that's what it was for them. At the time that I went down there, a lot of US teachers weren't going down there. More do now. And it just grew and grew and grew. And this year was the largest it's ever been. It was 55 workshops in 21 days in 9 cities. And that was all of the major dance studios. So the equivalents of the Edge and Millennium and those types of places. That was some, smaller competition studios that the teenagers are in. And there's something in Australia called full-time dance that we don't have in the US that I wish we did. And it's kind of like the Edge Scholarship Program, where kids can either get out of school halfway through the day and then dance the rest of the day at almost a full-time.
Almost like a co-op program.
Right. It's exactly. Fantastic. Or if they're older and they're adults, they actually just dance the whole day.
Wow.
And full-time programs it's a big thing down there. There are 3-4 major full-time programs in Sydney alone, and I taught at all of them.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your sponsorships, because you actually
help people to and the US. from being down there so much, I've met so many amazing dancers that have gone out into the world. And I've always told dancers that I meet when I'm teaching, not just in Australia, but wherever, write me. I'm an open book of information, because like I said, I didn't have that person in my life. So if you have questions about the industry, if you need contacts, whatever it is, please write me. And I get messages all the time on Facebook and email, and I stay in contact with people. And I've been so fortunate to be in a position to sponsor to date 5 different Australians for their visas, 2 Canadians. And it gives me so much joy, because they're such talented people, and there's a drive there and a perseverance, and just to be able to help them achieve their dream, that's me giving back, in a big way. And I will do it until the immigration department tells me I can't do it anymore.
Now, what if someone wants to apply for a visa from you? Like, what is the process? What do they have to do?
Well, they have to get a lawyer first.
Okay.
So they have to get a lawyer, and the lawyer advises them on everything they need to do in the application process and guides them through that. Usually they have to have an agent that is already willing to sign them. So it's usually a 2-part thing. The agency has to say that they are good enough, that they're an asset to the US. And then a choreographer, who is basically someone who will hire them, has to also say, this person is valuable, they're an asset to the dance community in the US. Yeah.
And so if they want to reach out to you, where can they go?
Sure. My website, which is my name, www.michaelschwandt.com.
Well, we definitely appreciate you sharing all of your talent and your humbleness. You have such a great spirit.
Thank you very much.
So thank you so much for talking with us today. Of course. And we'll catch you next time on another Dance Plug exclusive.